This week, we're talking about script analysis. This is where we start to put the three pillars of acting together: listening, action, imaginary circumstances. So, when you're acting, you want to be lost in the moment. You want to be spontaneous. You don't want to be consciously thinking logically, rationally, in your head, we say. We don't want you to be in your head thinking through what you're doing. You want to be present. You want to be totally open to the moment. That means you are just pure consciousness. You're pure awareness. You are up there in front of the camera on stage. You are just engaged in achieving your objective, playing your actions, being informed by the circumstances, listening in the moment, but you're not thinking about any of that. You're just in what psychologists call a flow state. Actors are tasked with achieving a flow state every time you work. So the beginning stages of the process is a matter of analyzing, researching, and coming up with a framework for little tiny parts, little tiny choices that you can make that will ultimately allow you to find freedom and openness. You can't start with totally open, free freedom because you don't know the world well enough. You don't know the choices well enough. If you're just speaking the text, hoping that genius will descend on you from the gods, then maybe if your instincts happen to be right, then great. But if not, then it's going to be general. It's going to be not very specific. It's going to be indicated. It's going to be not telling much of a nuanced, intricate, human, believable story. So script analysis is the first step on our way to creating a great performance. And script analysis is basically comprised of three things. I like to keep it very, very simple because when you show up to the first day of rehearsal, you want to have a roadmap. You want to have a blueprint there so that you have a sense of what your initial choices are, what your initial thoughts are on the role. So script analysis is comprised of actions, and as we've talked about a number of times, an action is a verb or a verb phrase that has a test in the other person, something that you can literally do at the drop of a hat. I can make you feel ashamed of yourself, and I can play that game, and it is a kind of a game. I can be with my scene partner, whoever that is, and I can make the attempt to really try to make them feel ashamed of themselves. There's a test, and I'll know in the other person, I'll know in their behavior, I'll know in their energy if I have really had the effect on them that I want to have. So I'm not placing the focus on myself. The action is not on myself to make myself look a certain way. The action is not on myself to behave a certain way or to make people think that I am feeling some emotion. No, my focus of attention is on completely trying to have a true and honest response from the other person. And that is a verb. That's a thing that I'm doing. I'm shaming. I'm exciting that person. I'm trying to get them excited. I'm trying to disarm them. I'm trying to pull the rug out from underneath them, surprise them, right? So whatever it is, it's an action. It's a verb. It's something I can do. All right. So I start to find that language, and I put it into my script. So at the table, because the first rehearsals are usually at a table where you read the play out loud and you're starting to get accustomed to the text. And the first rehearsals after that, The rehearsals after that are getting on your feet and starting to stage it. And you want a very simple blueprint that you can look at that will remind you of the choices you wanted to make without being buried in the script. You don't want to reading the script like up in your face, buried in the script. You want to get away from the script as much as possible and take in your scene partner and really try to act with them. Get the script out of your hand as soon as possible. A beat, the next thing that is in script analysis is a beat. And a beat is a section of text that contains one playable action, and it's marked by a line across the page. You see a line that I drew right there across the page. I like to draw it straight, boom, right across the whole page, so there is no mistaking there's a shift there. So when I'm in the heat of the moment acting, I can just see there's a shift there. I don't need to think about it too much. I don't need to find it. I don't need to look for it. It's just there. Oh yeah, there's a shift that I wanted to explore, and I give that a try. And then circumstances, questions, notes, etc. That's the other thing. So I'll include some things that I want to be reminded of. And again, this is all just to sort of remind you in the heat of the moment what initial choices you wanted to make. But ultimately, the script analysis is going to be left, and subsequent drafts of your performance will happen just in your rehearsing of it. It's going to transmit. It's going to go from the page into your body. So by the time you're off book, by the time you've memorized it, by the time you're running through the play, you're not worried about script analysis anymore. You're making action choices. You're informed by circumstances. You're finding complexity that you couldn't even possibly write down. You're finding things that are so much more involved and nuanced than what you could write in script analysis. So script analysis is useful for the very beginning of the process. It's not so useful later on. So here we see a script from our town. This is from when I was directing it last year, right before we went into lockdown. So you see at the top there, that's Act 2. So this is a scene in Act 2, and it's Emily and George. Now this is a director's script, so I have the actions for both characters. But if you were playing Emily, then you would just worry about your actions. If you're playing George, then you just worry about yours. So, but as a director, I want to have a sense of what everybody's playing. So I come to the table with my ideas. The actors come to the table with their ideas. And somehow through collaboration and through working on it and rehearsing it, we find what the production will be. I'm not imposing my ideas on them, and they're not imposing their ideas on me. We're all collaborating together. But in order to collaborate, we all have to come to the table together. So you see the beat at the top of the page starts. You see that line right across, right underneath. Yep, they're coming down Main Street now. Emily, carrying an armful of imaginary school books, comes along Main Street from the left. So the beat, the unit of action, starts there. So I put a line right across. Now, because a beat is a unit of action, I need to have an action right away. What is it that starts the action right there? And for me, we find in the scene that Emily and George, there's a little tension between them. So for me, I think this whole first beat for Emily is her snubbing George, to snub, or to give George the cold shoulder. And sometimes I'll give myself a couple of possible ways of wording something, because you never know what the right thing is going to be, right? What's the right way of wording it that's just going to capture it perfectly? But either of those is something that the actress playing Emily can actually do. As the actor, I can look at somebody and snub them, give them the cold shoulder, and have an idea of what effect I'm trying to have on the other person. I'm not indicating it, I'm really doing it. I'm really sending that energy to that person in order to get some response. And for George, George comes over, he wants to clear the air. So those are the actions. I put the actions right in that left-hand margin. So I know, my eye knows where to go. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to look for it. It's right there. The action's right there. If I'm acting, then boom, I know that's the choice that I want to play. It's a little reminder to me. But probably I'm not going to be buried in the script very much. So I don't want to be like really looking at the script when I'm in rehearsal. This is just a sort of a guide, a resource, right? And then there are other little notes that I make in the text. You see, I circled Louise there, and I wrote the question, what's their relationship? And then I underlined Ernestine, different relationship than Louise. Yeah, these are two different people. So if I'm playing Emily, I want to explore what's my relationship to either of those people? How am I dealing with either of those people? And Fred, I circle Fred. That's the one boy other than George that's around. So what's in that? Is there something in that moment? And then she says, Cicero is the worst thing. And I wrote, why? It's a little messy, but I wrote, why? Why is Cicero the worst thing? So again, these are all little questions, tiny, tiny little questions that will help inform the world for Emily. If you don't ask these questions, if you just say, oh, what's the big deal? Cicero, I kind of generally get the idea. Yeah, Louise, it's just one of her friends. It's just Louise, Ernestine, and Fred. Yeah, they're just friends. If you use the word just, you're not really going deep enough. If you think it's just enough just to kind of know, you're not going deep enough. You have to really know who Louise is, who Ernestine is, why is Cicero the worst thing, what's Emily's relationship with Cicero and Fred, and how is that all happening in the moment, and how is it informing her snubbing or giving George the cold shoulder? And you can see all those other questions that I wrote there. So, circumstance, action, and beat changes. And you see, here's the next page. We have another beat change. That scene, Emily is doing snubbing and giving the cold shoulder until you've been treating me so funny lately. And then she says, well, since you asked me, I might as well say it right out, George. So she's sort of like, whatever. She's sort of snubbing. And then there's a decision. Okay, you know what? We're going to go there. Well, since you asked me. And so to set him straight, that's a verb. That's something that actress can do. She can look at George. She can look at that actor playing George, and she can try to make that actor feel set straight. And the actress playing Emily should have an idea of what that's going to look like from George, what's going to satisfy her, so that she can really look at him and put him in his place or set him straight. And then George, I have to disarm her. So she's coming at him. Well, since you asked me, I might as well say it right out, George. Goodbye, Miss Corcoran. And so she's got to cover it up for a second there. And what's the point of view of Miss Corcoran? So I wrote a little question there. And then, so George is taking in that energy. And even though he doesn't have any lines there, he can still be disarming her through his body, through his energy. So he has an action even when he doesn't have a line. And that is key. You are always trying to do something on stage. You are always having an action. If you're on stage, it has to be for a purpose, right? Stanislavski talked about that in An Actor Prepares, remember? And then we go all the way down to the next page. She feels bad. So at the very bottom, she's putting him in his place. Well, you might as well know right now that I'm not perfect. It's not easy for a girl to be perfect as a man because we girls are more nervous. And how is she nervous? I wrote that little question. Well, how is that affecting her? So she's putting him in his place until then, and then something happens. No, I'm sorry, I said that about you. She's apologizing. It shifts. She feels bad. And here's something really, really important for you, the actor, to know, playing Emily. What happens in that moment? What does Emily see in George? What response does she see? What's the cause of her then apologizing? This is all about cause and effect. When things happen, tell you why things happen. She's going off on him, going off on him, going off on him, and then all of a sudden she apologizes. Well, why then? Something's got to happen in the actor playing George, or she has to see something. She has to see something outside of herself.